What is going on, Panther Lair? We are talking about the Pittsburgh Panthers' home loss to the Duke Blue Devils this past Tuesday night, 70-54. I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to look at two specific actions that Pitt's been successful with in the past against what the Duke did to kind of shut those down on Tuesday night. And got 5 total clips here. Again, 2 specific actions. Let's just dive in. This is going to be the opening possession here for the Panthers in the second half. You'll see this is the horns look with a couple cross screens that Roman Cialeppa looks to set, and then Cam Corrin is going to fall those out and set an inside ball screen here for Amari Witherspoon. Now, if you follow what I'm doing here on YouTube or on Panther Lair, you know that I pretty much highlighted this exact set that Pitt ran against the SMU Mustangs. So let's just dive in and see how this worked out against Duke. Well, it doesn't work out so much because here I'm going to stroll back. So in previous iterations against SMU, Cameron Boozer, the role playing the defender against Corrin, was late to recognize this and was in a pretty big trail. On top of that, there was far more, let's call it consternation between the screen navigation involving Cialeppa. Duke does not struggle with this, and you'll notice that Boozer is able to quickly work around Caleb Foster and stay attached to Corrin by the time the screen is set. So again, previously, we will look at this clip. The defender here for Corrin, the Mustangs has to immediately almost hedge out, and it allows Corrin to free release. But one of the things here is, this is only 2 games ago. So that would have definitely stuck out on tape because it was an easy basket more or less for Corrin. But you'll see Caleb Foster is calling this out. Watch for Corrin. He's going to try to release here, open up with his left foot, and take a dive towards the rim. But you'll see not only is the low man here, but Foster's also checking it. So they're really trying to load up and say, we are not going to allow this roll and layup. So what happens because of the timing? This is not something that the Panthers have access to now, so it kicks over to Cialeppa. He looks in, but again, Boozer, being the athlete that he is, recovers. And now we're in a situation here where, this is very familiar for Pitt, right? They're going to run another high ball screen, see what they get out of that. Nothing really. Caden Boozer fighting over. Cam Boozer, this is really no advantage whatsoever here. And again, the paint is going to be packed. I mean, both these guys basically have 2 feet in the paint, preventing a roll. Defender playing well in gap. I mean, this is something you expect from one of the best, 5 teams in the country. And so Witherspoon snakes this out. So this is going to keep helping a little bit longer, right? So obviously, hey, we're trying to take away a corner 3 here from DeMarco Minor, but Corrin's already been tagged here successfully by Foster and Boozer's sink rate anyways. So I like that Cialeppa is going to cut off of this because I think there's 3 defenders here. You should cut off of this. So cutting off this is a pretty good read. Decent pass here from Witherspoon. Pretty much hits him right in his stride. Actually, I'd say that's a pretty good pass. And then just a missed layup. But an example of, Pitt can run some other things here, but, just end up getting caught up there. Sorry, I probably spent a little bit longer on that clip than I wanted to, but here, this one against SMU. Again, pretty much the exact same thing, also in the second half. You're going to see these cross screens, a little bit more consternation here. Too much room here. And I think, again, this defender's trying to call it some switch, but because nothing ends up happening here, he's late, right? We just saw this. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But if you are watching this tape, hey, I don't want to let Corrin have a free release in an empty side corner. So let's take another look at a different action here. This is going to be almost at the end of the first half against Duke. This is pretty much their zoom alignment, right? We see this all the time. Their 5-out actions. This is going to be zoom on this side, and we've seen this action here, right? Here comes the zoom screen, but Cialeppa is going to cut to the basket. We see this all the time with Barry Dunn Jr. I think he has like 6 or 7 baskets this way this year. But Foster sniffs this out, flashes over, so this isn't going to be there. Now, at this point, Corrin's not even looking for that, but a very well-scouted thing here by the Blue Devils, so they go to zoom on this side, and this is another pretty common action that Pitt runs, where they're going to have this first initial screener, even though he's not face down like he's going to set a screen here, and Barry Dunning Jr. is going to use it, but he's going to cut off of this, right? Caden Boozer kind of recognizes it. Foster recognizes this too, and he ends up just stepping up, and here this pretty much erases the ability for Nojus Indrasitis to get a layup. And I think this is a little bit too. It's a good recognition, especially in the play. But at the same time, it's also, I think Pitt kind of shot themselves in the foot here by running both of these simultaneously. Because you'll watch here, game against the Louisville Cardinals. This is going to be the Dunning Jr. cut. right? But watch what happens when he cuts on the weak side, right? I've talked about this in the past. Running these simple exchanges confuses the role of the low man. What you're trying to do is you are trying to lift this defender out of the corner so he is not in a position to help, right? This is a very common weak side action here, off-ball action to occupy help. So here we go. This is against the Ohio State Buckeyes. So this is going to be that top screen cut. And you see Dunning Jr. doesn't, he feints a little bit better than Indrusitis did, that he's going to actually set this down screen, but then immediately cuts up. But you'll see again, the exchange at the top side here, and that clears out the help. And you saw in the very first clip that what happened was once they didn't go backdoor to see Aleppa, that it put him right underneath the basket, and Foster recognized that, came off of it, and didn't allow the top screen cut in the zoom alignment from Indrusitis. So it's a combination of both. I think it's a well-scouted action on Duke's part, but I also think kind of the Panthers put themselves in a tough position by trying to run both looks at the same time. Now, see Aleppa, he's going to be a very good player for Pitt for a while if he stays, but he probably could have vacated a little bit quicker, but I think at that point Foster had recognized the action. So I just thought this would be a nice little break. Hey, let's just talk about some things that have worked in the past, talk about how the defense shuts those down. This is a little bit more like, hey, this is kind of how I watch the games, and a breakdown of basketball more than it was specific to the team and the game per se. But here we are, Pitt probably in danger of maybe not winning more than 10 games this year, could maybe not even win their 10th game. So I thought this was just something to kind of shake it up.